Hey guys, welcome to Homestead Garage. If your generator's leaking gas in the carburetor or it's just not running right, don't worry. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to diagnose and fix a leaky carburetor on this Firman 9400 watt generator. I'll also share some quick maintenance tips to keep your generator running strong and save you a lot of time and money. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do to get into this is we're going to remove the airbox cover. Just has two snaps on it that lock it into place. Get it up and look at it. It's got some dirt daubers. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of dirt dauberness in that. We'll get that cleaned up before we put it back on to make sure it's looking good. All right, we're going to take the air filter out, and it's not too bad dirty, but we'll still clean it up before we put it back in. All right, the insert inside the air box has 6 8mm bolts that hold it in place, and we'll go ahead and get those out. And I have a little magnetic parts holder. It's good for doing little jobs like this. You can get the nuts and just stick them in there, and you don't got to worry about losing them or something happening to them. All right, with them 6 nuts removed, this insert in here that holds the air filter and directs the flow of air will come out, and you have the back cover left. The back cover itself has 2 nuts on the front right here that hold the back cover to the carburetor, which actually that's what holds the carburetor on, and it has a bracket on the back right here that has a 10mm nut on it that holds it steady on the bottom. So let's get those out. And the valve cover has a vent hose that runs into here. I'm gonna pull it out, and then there's a vacuum line that comes out right here. We'll pull that out. That has to come out to get this cover off. And directly behind this cover here on the side, there's a charcoal canister that it's for emissions control. It has a bracket down there, and it just slides into place and snaps. I pulled the snap loose and slid it back so I could get access to this bracket on the back side. And with that nut out, we should be able to just pop this back cover right off fairly gently, not to mess any threads up. All right, comes right off. We'll set it up here on top out of the way. And something I like to do, especially with this style, you can put this all back together with the insert and the air filter and the front cover, and just snap it back together for now, so we keep everything together and we don't lose anything. And then when we get to putting it back together, we'll get this all cleaned up and set it up. All right, this particular generator is 9,400 watts and it's dual fuel. It runs gasoline and it runs propane. So we have the smaller line is going to be your gasoline and your larger line is going to be your propane. I've never ran propane through it, but I just ran gas through it, and it's been sitting for about, I don't know, 3 years or so. And I know that gas in it's bad. The last time I did run it, it was leaking fuel from the carburetor out the overflow, I assume. But let's get this fuel line off and see if we can't drain the gas out of it that's bad. And I know this is an older fuel line, so I'm going to lightly pull on it and stick a screwdriver behind it and work it off. Now the fuel selector switch is also a fuel shut-off. So it's in the off position, so there shouldn't be any fuel come out of this. And we'll get this to drain the old fuel out. And switch it to the on position. And I already smell it. I don't know if you can make out that fuel, but it's not quite the right color and it's got a strong odor to it. So the tank's not full, but they're full, but there's a little bit in there. So I'm gonna take and put that on the ground. And I have a zip tie. I'm gonna zip tie this hose to the side here so we can continue what we're doing. And let that drain out on its own. All right, this next fuel line, the larger one, is going to be your propane fuel line. It's got a hose clamp on it that is a Phillips head. I had to twist the hose a little bit because the clamp was installed while the carburetor was off. So just a little slight twist on the hose. We get that loose, and then we can work that hose off. And when we reinstall it, we will make sure that clamp is facing the correct direction. We'll bend this down out of the way, and we are almost ready for the carburetor to come off. The carburetor should slide off. You just want to slide it very carefully. Before you slide, I slide it out before you go too far with it. Take you some needle nose pliers and you have well, let's go ahead and ease it off. And we have a throttle linkage and a spring. The spring slides over the top of it, and then you move your throttle around sideways and it should slide right out. The only thing left on the bottom of this carburetor is going to be your electric fuel shutoff, and it is a 4mm Allen. I'll move my drip pan over so I catch the fuel that leaks out of this carburetor. Since you're going to be dealing with fuel, old fuel most likely, make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area, away from flames and sparks. Even though this is old fuel, it is still a flammable gasoline. All right. So this fuel shutoff is a solenoid. It's an electric solenoid. What we're going to do is, that's gummed up pretty bad. That's probably one of the issues I'm having. So we'll just leave this hanging for now, and we will clean this in a little bit. You want to be very careful not to damage this O-ring that's in the bottom where that fuel shutoff goes. And with the carburetor off, now we are ready to move over and disassemble this thing and get it cleaned out. All right, we'll come back when I got it set up. All right, there's a few things I would have when it comes to cleaning one of these carburetors, and one of them being a carburetor and choke cleaner. This one, you don't have to have this brand. Any brand will really work. This will allow you to get the gum out and get all that crud out of there that's causing these issues. So we do have that. This is not necessarily, but I happen to have one. This is a cut and torch tip cleaner. If you do use these, you need to be really careful because these got little ridges on them. They will open the holes up too much if you don't watch out. You have to be real careful. I've got a brass wire brush. I've got a wooden soft bristle brush, and then I've got pipe cleaner. I've got a small pick. I got a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, a crescent wrench, and I do have a pair of needle nose pliers just in case. Let's go ahead and start disassembly. I'm going to take this nut off of the bottom. First and foremost, I'm going to take this drain plug out. Oh yeah, into that is, I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's solid black. It's real bad dirty. All right. We already drained all the liquid out of this, so we don't gotta, there's still gonna be some fuel that comes out, but got the drain plug out. And when you pull the drain plug out, try to be careful. It does have a small gasket on it. A lot of times you can reuse these gaskets. You just wanna be careful with them. Man, that's filthy. So we have an O-ring here on the very bottom of this, and then there's an O-ring on the bottom where that fuel shutoff went in, and the bottom is completely plugged up on this. It's supposed to be all the way hollow so that fuel shutoff can work properly. Yeah, we'll get that all cleaned out. Let's go ahead and, all right, I got the bolt that secures the bowl to the carburetor on. I'm just going to lightly tap on it. There we go. Get it broke loose. But real careful with it. We can save the bowl gasket. Yeah, the inside of that is just filthy and nasty. All right. We have the bowl, we have the drain screw, the plug on the bottom that the fuel shutoff goes in, and the float. And I'm pretty sure the reason that this carburetor is overflowing is the way this works is it fills up with fuel, and this float floats up and shuts off a needle valve that shuts off the flow of fuel. I think this one's gummed up, and the float's working properly, but the needle valve's not. So what we'll do now is we'll pull the float out. You just pull this pin, and the needle valve will come with it, and it is stuck. I'm going to lightly yeah, definitely the needle valve stuck. So the needle valve, the needle valve should come out of this. It all should come out together. There we go. And you have the float with the needle valve, and I had to use pliers to pull it out. So I'm gonna pop the needle valve off of the float. Float still, it's got a little discoloration in it, but it still looks good. There is a spring on this that helps spring it up, but as you can see on this needle valve, there's quite a bit of trash right here and build up right where it, at the top of the hole that it seals off. It's got a rubber on the bottom of it that actually stops the fuel flow. That actually looks pretty clean. We'll lay that aside. And another tip, if you don't have a bunch of shop rags to lay down where you're working, you could go to the store and buy one of those cheap $1, $2 aluminum pans that are disposable, and you can do all of this in there. That way you don't have to worry about getting any of this nasty stuff where you're working, or getting any of the carburetor cleaner or the old gas that might come out. One more thing we're going to remove. I had to switch screwdrivers. If you're going to remove the jets, you need to make sure you have a good screwdriver, and you've got to be very careful with it, because the jets are made out of brass, and if it doesn't fit right, you can damage them. This jet is pretty filthy. You should be able to, let's see if we can blow through it with some carburetor cleaner. And I did get through it. I'm going to take, you can also get like a little piece of wire that's like stranded wire, and cut it, take the jacket off of it, and use a single little piece of stranded wire to clean these, and you don't have to worry about messing them up. Alright, I'm just gonna try to clean this up with a brass brush. We use brass because brass, it's non-marring. It's not going to gall up the metal and scratch it real bad. Also have a air compressor to try to blow any extra garbage out of that. Blowing carburetor cleaner into the line where the fuel comes in, and my brush here is a little too big, so we're going to take the largest torch tip cleaner I have and clean it out. I wouldn't worry about too much messing this up. This is just to get the dirt out. And while you're working on these, you want to try not to mess up the gaskets on these. And I'm going to take this carburetor cleaner and blow through every hole that's in the back of this carburetor. We're just going to try to brush out all these little spots in here to try to get all of this varnish off of it. I'm even going to clean out the sealing surface for the carburetor bowl, just so we can get all the trash out of there. And once I get this together, I'm going to blow off the top of it with carburetor cleaner, get all that trash and dirt off of it. But I'm pretty satisfied with the carburetor body itself. Let's turn our focus now to this needle valve that shuts the fuel off. I'm going to spray it down with a little carburetor cleaner, and I'm going to hold the end that has the spring on it and run it up and down this brush, this brass brush, a little bit, and try to scrape off, just brush off all this buildup that's on here. You want to be very careful when you're doing this not to damage this rubber tip that's on it, because the rubber tip is what actually does the sealing. I'm going to use my screwdriver to knock the big pieces off. And then we'll hit it with that brass again. And the screwdriver works perfectly. You can scrape most of it off. And if your skin is sensitive to chemicals or whatever, it might be wise to wear some rubber gloves if you're going to get carburetor cleaner or old gas or fresh gas or any of it. If you're going to get any of that on your skin, it could cause your skin to dry out. Got a little more on the back side of this, so I'm going to try to get off. Perfect. I don't know if you can see that or not, but all of the buildup that was on it is gone. We can put that to the side. I'm going to attempt to use this soft bristle brush and a little bit of carburetor cleaner to clean the float off. Wire brass. Yeah, go ahead and use the brass on it. A little varnish buildup on it. You just got to be careful. This float is plastic, and it should be resistant to these solvents that we're cleaning it with, because it's resistant to gasoline, so it should be resistant to the carburetor cleaner and all that. Just continue scrubbing this off till we get it clean. We'll give it one last little looks good as new. I'm going to go ahead and slip the needle valve. Right here in the center you have a hole and a slot, so the needle valve slides up in the hole to go through, and it pushes into the slot to hold it in place. That way when the float goes down and up, it brings the needle valve down and up. We're going to put those together and set those to the side. Alright, now that we got the float cleaned off and the needle valve cleaned off pretty good, I'm gonna hit this needle valve with the tip of it, it looked like I saw a little bit of residue on there. Y'all disregard these glasses. I see a little better on small pieces with them sometimes. So you might see me wearing them from time to time. I'm going to clean out this hole that this needle valve goes in. We want it to slide up and down and function properly. Alright, we're going to put the needle valve and float back in its location and push the pin to it. And the needle valve looks like it's functioning properly, so we'll get that to the side. Since we got the needle valve and float put back together right and it looks like it's functioning properly, we'll go ahead and get the jet put back in its place. And we're going to do this very carefully. The jet is made of brass. We do not want to damage it. Alright, we got that snugged up. Alright, so we have it halfway put back together now. Let's clean off this this carburetor bowl drain screw. I'm going to go ahead and spray a little carburetor cleaner on it, and we will use the brass brush to brush off all of this buildup. That looks pretty decent. Set that to the side, and we have the bolt that holds the bowl onto the carburetor, and it also holds that shutoff that we need to clean. Very carefully, if you damage these, you will have to replace them. 2 O-rings, a larger one off of the inside and the smaller one that goes on the outside that shutoff goes to. So let's get this thing cleaned up. It is filthy. Like I said, if you use torch tip cleaners, you need to be very careful that you don't open these holes up any more than they are. Try to get this thing as clean as we can get it. This thing has several holes in it on the side of it, so let's get those cleaned out as well. They were all completely filled up with trash. All right, I think we got that pretty clean. It's blowing it off a little bit. I think I'm going to blow it with some air just to make sure the passages are clear. I think I'm going to hit it one more time with some carb cleaner and a brass brush. All right. I'm going to use this really soft. You could actually use a toothbrush if you had one. I'm going to lightly spray this O-ring with some carburetor cleaner and just brush it off with this soft bristle brush. It's pretty much like a toothbrush. Set that to the side. We're going to hit this one. These O-rings should be resistant to solvents because they're on a carburetor, so you would think. We're going to set those to the side. And then we'll focus on getting this carburetor bowl cleaned out. I'm going to brush this carburetor bowl. All right, so before we get started putting the carburetor back in place, we're going to clean off this fuel shutoff here. I'm going to spray a little carburetor cleaner on it, get it going. And I'm going to brush it up with this brass brush. We're just going to be careful with it because it does have a rubber tip on it. All right, that should do us good. All right, now that we have the carburetor cleaned and the fuel disconnect is cleaned, we're going to go ahead and put the fuel disconnect back in place. I'm going to do it off the machine. And on this particular machine, the wire to it goes facing out. It's a little bit easier for me to put it on when I can hold the carburetor in my hand. We can make sure it's sitting straight and sitting right, not over tightened on one side or the other. All right, we're going to go ahead and put the throttle linkage back in place. We're going to spin it around so it's evened up with it. Well, we'll put the spring for the throttle linkage where it goes. You just remember where you took it off from. There's only one spot where it can go. Stretch it out a little bit, and that just snaps right down into place. And so you actually pull the throttle linkage a little bit while you're putting this carburetor back to its location. Put it on there and slide it in place. You have carburetor sitting in place. We have the fuel disconnect there. And I have the drain screw for the bowl, like I said earlier, oriented to the direction, so if we ever have to drain this, we can take the air box off and just open that up, drain the carburetor. All right, now we're ready to put the fuel lines back on there. This larger line is going to be the propane, if you decide you want to run propane, and I'm turning this clamp in a way to, if we have to take this back off, it'll be right here pointing the front so we can get easy access to it next time. All right, I cut the zip tie on the fuel line that was allowing this to drain into the pan I had it going in. We're going to put this back in place on the front here where we removed it from. It should just slide on fairly easy. I'm going to use these little needle nose pliers here to slide it back in place. This factory clamp, these small ones, fit real tight. All right, we got it in place. Shouldn't go anywhere there. And the zip ties I removed earlier, we will put those back in place once we get everything going. Now we can focus on the air box. We're going to undo this. I have that brass brush over here. We'll just go ahead knock the dirt dauber's nest off of it. Take it apart. And for now, I'm just going to dump this out on the floor. I'll clean this floor later. The back cover to this seems to be in pretty good shape. I'm going to clean the threads off in case they get any dirt put on them. We'll put that to the side and we'll focus on cleaning this insert. I know around here, anytime anything sets up for very long, you're really going to have some dirt dauber nests on it. I have this carburetor cleaner, so let's just spray that on there. And I'm going to try to catch it. I'm just going to try to catch it in that pan so it don't go all over the floor. I'm going to try to catch it in the pan and drain the fuel in. And use this brush to we'll set that to the side and we'll walk off the front cover. It's a pretty large piece on this one. Hit it with this brass brush, knock the loose pieces off. We'll spray it with this carburetor cleaner. Leaving a little bit in there is probably not going to hurt anything, but I would rather clean it out. That way we don't have to worry about sucking any of that loose dust up, dirt up in our air filter. That's what our air filter's for, but if I can keep it to where any excess doesn't go in there, and that'll be the way I like to do it. Next, we're going to clean this air filter. As you can see, this air filter is really not that bad, but I'm just going to use this air hose and blow it out a little bit. If your air filter is incredibly dirty, they make air filter cleaners. K&N makes one. I generally use gasoline. You just have to be smart about how you use it. This one's not, but we're going to go ahead and lube this up with oil so it will catch any dirt that comes in. And this is literally just an all-purpose lubricant, but it works real good on these air filters. They do make air filter oil, but I don't happen to have any, and we're trying to do this free. All right, when we got this good and lubed, I'm going to set it to the side, try to keep the dirt off of it, and we'll reassemble this air box. All right, it's time to mount the rear of the air box cover onto the carburetor, which will hold the carburetor in place once we get it bolted down. If you remember, we have two 10mm nuts that go on the inside, and we have the bracket on the back that holds it in place. These are pretty easy to distinguish. They're all the bolts are the same. It wouldn't matter anyways, but the two that go inside the air box are silver, and the one that goes on the outside on the back is black, so you can keep them separate. And before we tighten anything down, we're going to go ahead and get all three nuts in place. That way, all of them are going, and we don't get it out of whack, tighten it down. We'll go ahead and tighten the bottom one up by hand first. And then we'll do these top ones. Everything is hand tight now. I'll go ahead and just snug it up with a wrench. Remember, we do have a carburetor gasket on the back side of this air box. So to keep it from sucking too much air through that, I'm not going to over tighten it, but we are going to get it snug so it seals off. We'll tighten up the nut on the bracket on the back side. And while we're back here, we will go ahead and put this vacuum canister back on. It's a charcoal canister. It snaps into place. We'll just snap it back into place. There we go. We will go ahead and hook the small vacuum line through the hole it goes in, and the valve cover vent through the hole it goes through. The back of the air box is in place. We can go ahead and put the middle piece back in place. And if you remember, this one has six 8mm nuts that holds it in place, and we'll go ahead and get those started. And remember, always start stuff by hand. And if it gives you any trouble just threading it by hand, never put a wrench on it. That'll keep you from cross-threading nuts and bolts and save you time and money, especially in the long run. I'm using this deep well socket to get these started by hand because I got fat fingers that can't reach in there. And so once we get them all started, I'll use it with the extensions I have. And I'm going to snug it up by hand, one corner at a time. There's no particular pattern, but I do it this way just to keep from distorting any of the pieces. That way it goes down evenly. And this doesn't have to be super tight, because it's actually inside the front and rear cover of the air box. You don't want the nuts to vibrate loose, so you do need to snug it up, but I wouldn't go overboard tightening it. All right, we will put this lubed up air filter back in place. And we will put our clean airbox cover back in place. Snap it in. And our carburetor should be cleaned up. We drained all the fuel out so we don't have any full fuel. Another tip we'll work on while we're doing this particular maintenance is we already got the air filter cleaned. We drained bad gas out of it. We'll pull the spark plug out, clean it up, and make sure it's in good shape. I'll get set up and we'll come back. All right, the spark plug on this machine is just right around the corner from the carburetor. It's like directly behind it. This one has a metal cover on the spark plug boot, which is good. You want to be very careful pulling these off because you don't want to damage them. So it snaps right off. And you'll use a 13/16 spark plug socket. Make sure you have a spark plug socket because they have a little rubber ring in them that keeps you from breaking the ceramic of the spark plugs. So we'll pull this spark plug out. And see what it looks like. This spark plug, it's a little dirty, but it's not too bad. I think this thing's got 50-something hours on it. There's not just a whole lot of hours on this generator. We really used it when we were building our place here before we had the electricity hooked up. So I put most of the hours on it while we were out here working. I'm going to go ahead and just use a little carburetor cleaner on the end of that. Hit it back with the brass brush again. I don't happen to have a spark plug gap tool on me, but the spark plug gap looks pretty good. And just make sure you don't mess the gap up while you don't want to hit it on anything, or you don't want to drop it. If you drop it, you need to make sure that the end gap is where it's supposed to be. That looks pretty good. All right, before I put this spark plug back in place, I'm a big fan of using anti-seize on stuff that gets hot or stuff that might be in there for a while. Spark plugs are a big one. You want to be careful not to get it on the tip or anything. I just put a little bit on the threads, and that'll keep this metal spark plug, the steel, from bonding itself to the aluminum engine block. And you want to be careful when you're putting the spark plug back in. You want to just try to tighten it by hand. And a tip I've always been told is when you're trying to put something together like this, whether it's a spark plug or if you're screwing together two plastic pieces, turn it backwards until you hear it click the threads into place, and then you can turn it the correct way. And I've got it bottomed in. I'm going to go ahead and tighten it with my socket wrench, but I'm not going to go overboard with it. One more thing that I'm going to do before I put this spark plug boot back on is I have some dielectric grease. Now it is grease that's made for electric components, and I'm just going to put a little bit in here inside this spark plug boot, and it'll keep it from drying out and it'll keep it from adhering to the end of the spark plug. And you put it back on there and it snaps into place. Okay, so we have this thing all back together. All right, let's go ahead and add some fuel. And as far as me, any small engine I have, I will not run any ethanol-based fuel in it. It's just not good for them. I will buy the premium non-ethanol fuel and running these, whether it's a generator or a four-wheeler, ATV side-by-side, lawn mower, weed eater, in any small engine like that, I will run only non-ethanol fuel in it because it causes you less problems in the long run. I'm not going to fill this fuel tank up. We're going to give ourselves enough. We're going to give ourselves enough fuel in here to run for a minute and see how she does. Anytime you're going to leave your generator stored for a long period of time, it's good to buy some kind of fuel stabilizer and put in it. And it'll help not do what this one did and get all gummed up in the carburetor like that. All right, I think we've got enough fuel in here now. I have a little small portable battery operated pump. That way you don't have to tilt these big gas jugs up and make a big mess. All right, we've got our fuel in it. And now I'm going to attempt to start it up. Let's check the oil before we start it up. I don't have any replacement oil right now. We're a little low, but we're fine on the oil to run it for a little bit. And somehow, I don't know how, but I will vouch for these Firman generator batteries that come with these generators. This generator's been sitting up for about 3 years, and then somehow it still has a little bit of voltage. I switched my fuel selection knob to gasoline. It goes to gasoline or LPGs or off, and it cuts your fuel supply off. We got it on gasoline right now. Let's go ahead and flip the choke on and see if this thing will start up. That's good. Didn't have a lot of fuel in it, but seems like it ran good. It's not leaking gasoline anywhere, so I think that's a good cleaning. All right, guys, that's a wrap for today's project here at Umstead Garage. If this video helped you, give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next repair, build, or garage tip. And if you've got a question or a story from your own garage, share it in the comments. I check every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.